that isn't like an Incineroar will take at least 70 to 80 unless they're like severely bulky. But
I one-hit a Kyogre in the midseason yesterday.
Oh, you
with
did?
That as my Z move.
Oh my god!
I lost, but you know, I got the win because I got that. So even though I lost the round, I won the battle there, or however that phrase goes.
You won. You lost the battle, but you won the war.
Exactly.
There you go.
Speaking of players who win a lot, Justin Burns
Not us.
and Stephen Mia are on screen. Justin, I remember I was talking with him yesterday. He said it was only like a 5-hour drive for him to get to Dallas. And
that's nice.
Right, it must be nice. And Stephen was up from New Jersey, so he had to fly in. Took a little bit longer, but I don't know what else we can say. Stephen, a day 2 Worlds competitor, obviously is one of the best players in North America. Always topping the CP charts. Always in that extra highlighted bold green section in the on the CP charts because he goes to so many events and he's so effective at all of them. So it just seems like even if you don't talk to him by the end of Swiss, you're like, oh yeah, that's right. Like me is in Top Cut.
Yeah. So I gotta ask. I mean, you mentioned talking to him yesterday. Were they both in the midseason then?
No, because they arrived later. So.
No worries.
Yeah, I didn't get to. That was like not a main factor, but a reason I did join was see, maybe I'll know some teams that are going on. But I did not face either of these teams because I know I didn't see a Charizard in the midseason yesterday. So let's get into it, Gabby. Round 2, Justin Burns and Stephen Mia here at the 2019 Dallas Regional Championships. Justin with the team of Xerneas, Groudon, Tapu Koko, Incineroar, Kartana, and everybody's favorite Generation 1 starter, Charizard. Yes, I'm calling you all out. Charizard's the best. Versus Stephen Mia, Incineroar, Tornadus, Kyogre, Amoonguss, Kartana of his own, and also a Xerneas.
Yeah, so it looks like Steven's going with almost I don't want to say it's a carbon copy because there must be a Z move somewhere on this team of Riley Factura's team that did really well sort of consistently throughout the format for Sun Series. That Tornadus gets access to moves like Taunt and Tailwind, which are amazing when you're trying to stop Pokemon like, I don't know, Xerneas, kind of a threat. And it just, the synergy works really well in terms of getting that speed boost. Tornadus then usually gets knocked out a turn or two after, most known to carry that Focus Sash item. And then you can send something in that can just do heavy hits and sort of wear your opponent down. Justin, I really do like how he's sort of put his own spin on like a similar formatted team. The Groudon instead of the Kyogre both have Xerneas, both have the Incineroar and Kartana, which are, I think, essential Pokemon for this format. But I think the Charizard is what I'm most interested in because I believe Charizard can learn Tailwind.
Right.
No one ever runs it. Yeah, but that could have been his, like, sort of, let's say sun-themed twist on the Tornadus that is on the more, rain-flavored version of this team. So I'm excited. It's been forever since I've seen a Charizard, out in play.
I hope we get to see him here in Game 1. Hopefully that happens. But for now, we don't have him on screen. Justin Burns on the bottom of your screen with Tapu Koko and Incineroar, and Stephen Mia on top with a Xerneas and Incineroar lead. So we even have the Incineroars on the same side mirroring each other with their Intimidates and potential fake outs and whatever Incineroars like to do on turn 1.
I mean, in this kind of setup where the Xerneas obviously threatens the Geomancy, which everybody should be afraid of because it's still that scary in the Moon format. The Tapu Koko, actually, if you run it with the Electric Crystal in electric terrain with Thunderbolt, there is a very high likelihood that will knock out a Xerneas that isn't heavily specially defensive invested. So it's definitely something that could threaten the Xerneas, and I think that's going to force Steven to either switch or fake out that spot, or both is probably what I would stick with. But, this is turn 1 of Game 1. They don't really know each other's teams yet, presumably. So if I had to guess, we're going to see a very slow start here, maybe some protects as these trainers sort of start feeling each other out.
They also have to figure out which of their Incineroars is faster. So throughout the set, they know if we're both in on the same turn, will my fake out beat the opposing fake out? But no fake outs at all, actually.
Actually, Justin's Incineroar faked out the protecting Xerneas.
Oh, right. There we go. Thank you. So Tapu Koko, though, will Volt Switch, does a nice little chunk to Steven's Incineroar thanks to the electric terrain being up. And now Justin will bring in his Xerneas into that slot as Steven U-turns the Xerneas, and we'll have to switch it into something else in the back. If he brought Kartana, might want to go for that, or, you know, even a Moongus so he can Rage Powder so he can Geomancy.
Yeah, it's going to be up to Justin how he wants to try and sort of answer the threat of this Kyogre. I really like that switch from Steven. You know, presumably if this is like Riley Factora's team, you know, that Kyogre has Choice Scarf. It's going to go for something like a Water Spout. That's going to be, you know, very strong against the Incineroar and the Xerneas because it has not gotten its special defense boost up yet. You know, the most Justin can do to mitigate that would be to switch in the Groudon and set up the Sun. But even then, he's going to take a ton of damage on that switch. So I think Steven just needs to keep up the offensive pressure. He's probably safe to go for a Geomancy this turn if he wants it. And if he's able to get both that Water Spout and the Geomancy this turn, I think Justin's going to have a really hard time sort of answering that as this game progresses.
Right, and it seems like both trainers could go for the Geomancy on this turn, but Steven will actually Water Spout in the Sun thanks to Groudon being brought onto the field, and look how much damage it does because of the critical hit, so bringing it down to well under half of its HP remaining. Steven's Xerneas, as of right now, went first. Doesn't necessarily mean it is faster. They could obviously have the same base speed, so it might be a tie in that. We'll find out next turn, but he will increase his special attack, special defense, and speed by 2 stages here on this turn. And then Justin just say, anything you can do, I can do. Well, exactly the same, not better, because they'll both get +2.
Yeah, thankfully all the boosts are the same. There's no moody shenanigans going on in the game, though I did hear about some last round, actually. I think that Justin's going to be forced to switch out his Groudon this turn, honestly. I mean, it's under, what, like 40% of its health. That Water Spout did a ton of damage. It probably would have only done about, 40% damage to it if it hadn't been for that critical hit. So Steven just in a really good spot here to keep up the offensive pressure and really sort of punish Justin for that adjustment. Though it looks like he's going to preserve the weather instead, which is a very safe play. I like that. But we'll see if this gives Justin an opportunity to sort of gain some of his momentum back.
Yeah, Steven understanding just how powerful the Kyogre can be under its own reign, so wanting to switch it out to make sure it gets that extra boost and not have its damage halved where it is right now in the Sun. A Dazzling Gleam from Steven's Xerneas goes into Justin's Protect, and then is enough to knock out the Groudon. So now Justin is down a Pokemon. He does get to bring something in for free, maybe the Tapu Koko or his 4th remaining Pokemon, but it could just eat a Fake Out, and there's the Incineroar.
Yeah, I think Justin wanted to get his Groudon knocked out there so he could send in the Incineroar with the Fake Out. But you have to wonder, I mean, Steven's in a spot where he can use his own Fake Out to, just sort of stall the turn. So I think Justin's going to have to make a decision here. I mean, he can go for the very safe play of just, matching Fake Out for Fake Out and then end up in the same situation this next turn. Or he can try and maybe outpredict his opponent a little bit. Something like a knockoff here from that Incineroar to Steven's Incineroar might get rid of one of those big berries that we keep seeing everywhere. Throughout the formats, really. It's like Incineroar's favorite item. That might help him a little bit later. Or he could go for a sun-boosted Flare Blitz into that Xerneas, which, because that will hit on the physical side of damage, that's going to bring it down to at least half of its health. And I think that's going to be really important to him moving forwards.
Justin opting for a double protect, which fails on his Xerneas, so no offense even with the Geomancy boost. Steven will U-turn onto Justin's Incineroar, gets a critical hit, and then he also protected successfully with his Xerneas this turn. So not a lot of offense, but instead Steven will probably bring, it will actually reveal his 4th Pokemon, that being the Tornadus. I was expecting maybe Kyogre comes back in, but a roar from Justin. So not every Incineroar does run roar, even though it's in his name, but it is so common in this restricted format because you get rid of the Geomancy boost, and now when Steven has to switch his his Xerneas back in later on, it doesn't have that boost to its special attack, but most importantly, the special defense. So now Justin with a Moonblast into the opposing Xerneas will be really strong.
And Steven does have an option here. I mean, he can try to go for a Tailwind with that Tornadus. It certainly has the time to use it now, so speed might not be as big of a deal in the equation, but you're right. That special defense, the loss of the special defense boost here is going to allow Justin's Xerneas to really control the pace of this match moving forwards.
Justin's Incineroar will switch out thanks to the U-turn, breaking a potential Focus Sash on Tornadus here. But it really, that is what Tornadus does. It comes in, it sets up Tailwind, and then it tries to get knocked out so the rest of its team can really settle the rest of the match here. Justin will bring Tapu Koko back in. We have not seen it since the first turn of the game, and an untimely switch in as the electric terrain disappears on the turn it switched in, so now he does not get that boost to his electric attacks.
You have to wonder, though, if he's really sort of worrying about that right now. I think he wanted to preserve the fake out for later from that Incineroar. And yes, you don't get the terrain back, but a Tornadus is already weak to electric type attacks, and this is a Life Orb Tapu Koko. I mean, I don't think that boost necessarily helps you out there as much. I think that Justin is still in the driver's seat. You know, this Xerneas is going to probably go for a Dazzling Gleam or a Moonblast. I would say Moonblast into the Incineroar, you know, try to get it off the field, and then go for the Thunderbolt to get rid of the Tornadus and just hope that that works out for you. But we get our first Z move of the game.
And
wasn't expecting that.
It is on Steven's side, and it's actually the Tornadus is the Z move user on Steven's team, not the Kyogre or the Kartana. As I was originally looking at the team composition, I was wondering if it'd be one of those two, but no, Tornadus up in the skies with that supersonic Sky Strike, Flyinium Z into Xerneas. Is it enough? No, it is not for a knockout. So Xerneas does hang on, goes down into the red, but just barely missing that KO. That will knock out with the Moonblast, though, into Incineroar. And Tapu Koko with a Life Orb boosted Volt Switch into Tornadus is enough to take it down. So a very safe turn from Justin. Obviously, he just had to make the simple plays, and it worked out for him. And Steven revealing that tech in game one and it not working out for you, oftentimes, you know, it's not the best time to, you might have wanted to save that for later on, because now going into game two, he knows what's going on.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, too, because he could have easily, you know, faked having that Focus Sash item. Usually on Tornadus, the attacking move is something like a Hurricane, which will hit on the special side of damage. So, you know, yes, maybe that was a damage roll. Maybe he did calculations for that going into this tournament, so he knew it was worth the risk. But, you know, from a viewer's standpoint, you know, that Xerneas was able to hang on pretty comfortably. And, you know, the Incineroar is pretty safe to fake out into that Choice Scarf Kyogre. You know, Xerneas can go for the Moonblast. Like, really, as long as Justin sort of makes the safe plays and continues that up, game one is his.
Absolutely. It seems like he doesn't even have to think too critically on these turns in game one, because when you understand your matchups, you pretty much know what to do. Okay, Choice Scarf, Kyogre, boom, I just fake out it. Then I move on to the next thing, which is Moonblast from my Geomancy boosted Xerneas into... Oh, no.
That was the Tailwind.
Oh, Tailwind is still up. That's right. Tailwind is more important than the Geomancy boost in speed. So Steven knocks out Justin Xerneas there. I had completely forgotten about Tailwind there. And now it is 2 versus 2.
It is. That's going to be an interesting thing to remember moving forwards. You know, I think Justin was counting on the fact that the Roar would be enough to sort of remove the threat of the Xerneas from the field. But, you know, yeah, Kyogre took a little bit of damage, but it can certainly go for that Water Spout this turn. And looking at the damage onto the Incineroar and the Tapu Koko already, that actually will be enough to knock it out. And, you know, props to Steven. I also forgot about that Tailwind.
Right. And here's the double Water Spout.
Damage.
Knocking out both of Justin's Pokemon, and Steven actually taking the victory here when we thought Justin was in a great spot. This all goes back to Tornadus, as we were saying. You know, I kind of got distracted by the Supersonic Sky Strike being that variant of Tornadus. I had completely misremembered that what it did before was set up Tailwind. So, and remember how we talked, like, Tornadus likes to set up Tailwind and then get knocked out so the rest of its team can sweep through, and that's exactly what Steven did.
Yeah, I would be curious, like, I mean, to have a calculator and to go through and to see if the Z move was actually needed there to put Xerneas into Moonblast KO range, because if so, you know, that, you know, Steven was able to keep a calm mind and, you know, work through the game and find his win condition. So props to him. That was really well managed overall. I think going into game 2, you know, obviously he won game 1, but it was pretty darn close. So I think he's going to have to play a little bit more carefully. He knows about the roar on that Incineroar from Justin's side of the field. I doubt he's going to let himself get put into that position again, especially since he does have the Kyogre that heavily threatens that Incineroar. We might see a little bit more weather play come in this game. You know, I feel like Justin's going to try to preserve that Groudon a bit more, knowing that this is kind of how this game's going to play out. But overall, you know, I think that both these trainers are really like neck and neck. So I'm really excited to see the adjustments that they're going to be making.
Absolutely, two of the best players in North America, and you can see just how tight that match was, and you understand why there is that upper echelon, of competitive Pokemon that these players reach, and it's so exciting to watch because I can't even fathom being at that level of competitiveness.
I know, right? But still, it really goes to show just how much of this preparation I think was done before the tournament.
Right.
You know, you do have to be familiar with these kind of damage calcs in these kind of situations, because otherwise, you know, if you sort of lose your cool and you forget something, then it really just makes it that much harder to, you know, find your win condition and lock onto it.
We will have a double Incineroar again in Game 2 as Justin Burns leads Incineroar Tapu Koko, and the same lead for Steven as he had in Game 1 with Incineroar and Xerneas.
I think they're both using the same leads.
That's actually. Right, yeah, because Koko Volt switched out on turn 1.
Yes, it did. So, you know, Game 1, we saw the fake out go into the protecting Xerneas, which is something I think Justin's going to have to respect. He could try to go for a roar here if he wanted to, but then if the opposing Incineroar goes into it, that might be a problem. As far as I could tell from the Intimidates, when the Incineroars were sent out onto the field, which can be used to determine speed, Justin's Incineroar did move first with that. So I think he might feel pretty confident that he can fake out the opposing fake outer. Which
that's what we talked about in Game 1. Understanding which Incineroar was faster so you could fake out, so he wouldn't be able to fake out that turn. Thunderbolt from Tapu Koko bringing Steven Xerneas down to under 50% of its HP, but he will go for the Geomancy here, getting that special attack, special defense, and speed increased by 2 stages. He's already at half health, though, so Justin might not even need to go for the roar this time because of how low Xerneas is.
I'm not sure, honestly. I think the interesting thing I saw from that turn was that Steven didn't go for a fake out. You know, we saw his Incineroar flinch last, so that might have been an attempt to U-turn again, like we saw him do in Game 1. Though I really like the switch from the protected Geomancy, because then this happens, and this is scary.
Yeah, Tapu Koko goes down. Incineroar is hit with a neutral Dazzling Gleam, so it will stick around. Steven will U-turn out with his Incineroar, bringing in potentially the Kyogre, or, you know, have the Tornadus again, might as well, since it has the Z move. It does have some offensive power, and there is the Tornadus here. So he doesn't even need to worry at this second to set up Tailwind, but Justin will go for the roar again. It seems like, he was not afraid of getting knocked out on that turn and was safely roaring Steven's Xerneas out into Incineroar. I don't know. Maybe Steven's okay with it.
I mean, going strictly by the damage calculations, you have to remember that Incineroar has been intimidated. It was only once at the beginning of that turn, but now it's again because of the roar. I don't think that a Flare Blitz would have knocked out Xerneas comfortably, given the fact that there was that Intimidate. So I liked the roar play from Justin, but honestly, I think Steven sort of accepted that as okay, and I think he decided that the more important thing for him that turn was to remove the Tapu Koko so that, you know, that Kyogre won't be fake out Thunderbolted into oblivion when it does come in.
And Tornadus is weak to Koko.
It is too, yes. So removing that from the field, I think, just gives him a lot more mobility in terms of how he plays the rest of this game. That being said, you know, I think the Tailwind play also is going to be good here because Justin has his Xerneas out on the field, and, you know, barring a taunt or something from that Tornadus, it can attempt a Geomancy.
a fake out tailwind seems like a very simple play that trainers will often go for just because it's so effective. And let's see if that is what's going to happen here in game 2. Xerneas will protect, so no Geomancy, no Moonwest, nothing. Just wants to play it safe, wants to eat this fake out, which is exactly what Steven goes for. And then the tailwind from Tornadus here. So thanks to Groudon switching in, Justin isn't going to be able to get any attacks off this turn, but now the Incineroar can go for a sun-boosted Flare Blitz into Xerneas. Tornadus can use the Supersonic Sky Strike, double targeted, and it just protected, so its odds of getting a double protect are very slim.
Yeah, it's very slim indeed. I really think that you have to play safe like that here. I think Steven, yes, he didn't do any damage, and this turn might be a little bit slow in comparison, but when that Xerneas does come in, when that Kyogre does take the field, it doesn't have to worry about the potential of this Geomancy Xerneas, which, honestly, he could still stop. While the Supersonic Sky Strike would do a nice amount of damage, if he did have something like Taunt, that would definitely shut down that Geomancy. So what I'm wondering is if the Supersonic Sky Strike without the Geomancy boost and special defense plus a sun boosted Flare Blitz is enough to knock out this Xerneas, and we'll see what he targets into. And
I think we're going to find out.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I think we're going to find out if Steven has done his homework and brought his calculator out, knowing what'll happen.
Ooh.
Brings it. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
That double target will take down the Xerneas, and Justin is just losing Pokemon at a very fast rate that Steven is taking advantage of right now. That's why I was saying that Steven wasn't even upset about the roar.
Exactly.
Because it got him into this position for fake out Tailwind and then Supersonic Sky Strike Flare Blitz.
Yes, and now the best thing for Steven, which is not great for Justin, is once one of these Pokemon gets knocked out, Kyogre comes in. Kyogre is fast.
Right.
These are ground and fire type Pokemon. Not going to end well, and I think we see that reflected in the forfeit from Justin right now. So really well played by Steven. I liked how he adjusted to game 1. I think that he took something that was very close and decided to just take that information